Hello and welcome to the Dr. Hibernica Comics Review. I'm your Madness Made Real, Dr. Hibernica. Last week, we took a look at what happens when the economic 99% gets superpowers and rebels against the government and the police. This week, we're going to take a walk on the opposite side of the fence and find out what happens when the 1% gets kinda bored. We're not talking about Bruce Wayne or Tony Stark, Reed Richards, or Catherine Kane here. No, we're talking about Green Team Teen Trillionaires. How does this comic stand up? Let's jump in and find out. As always, we're going to start with the cover. Everything about it just seems overcluttered to me. I get the money flying around, but does the foam coffee mug really need the dollar sign motif? And if these characters are supposed to be teenagers, that can't be alcohol the cowboy has there, right? Right? The dollar bill signs on the skirt also seem more than a little excessive. If this book is about a bunch of teenagers living lives of excess, sort of flinging money around seemingly at random, then this cover is perfect. If they're not really that outrageous, something's wrong here. Our author for this book is Art Baltazar. The vast majority of Baltazar's work up to this point has been kids' comics. His own self-published works include titles such as Captain Camel and the Space Chicken and The Cray Baby Adventures. Recently, in addition to his own material, he's been working on DC books like Tiny Titans and Young Justice, adapted from the animated series. He's also the current writer on Superman Family Adventures. Given this bibliography, it appears that the Green Team may be his first book for an older audience. Also given authorial credit is Franco Aureliani, who has worked with Baltazar on the same set of DC books. In addition to his comics work, Franco teaches art at Carmel High School in New York. The artist, Iguara Barros, has worked on numerous titles for both DC and Marvel, including Thor, The Avengers, Blue Beetle, Suicide Squad, and many others. His art style definitely belongs to the more mature titles Marvel and DC have to offer, and mixing him with Baltazar and Franco for Green Team will definitely give the series a strong foundation. This is our main character, a socially awkward prince named Mohammed Khatani. His character is that he has a lot of money, and his father only cares that he gets more, while he cares what he does with the money that he's got. He's the closest thing to an ordinary person we're going to get in this book, and he'll be the one to ground our story. Baltazar does a pretty solid job of making Muhammad believable and sympathetic. I doubt anyone in my audience can really appreciate having more money than you know what to do with, but most of us can appreciate what it's like to have a figure that we want to please but always fall short of. In Muhammad's case, it's his father, but we all have our own version of that. The man in the center here is the 0.001%. His name is Commodore Murphy, and he's the fulcrum around which the story bends. He's the reason everyone's gathered together, and he's the one that will be at the center of the conflict for the first few issues. The girl on his left is Cecilia Sunbeam, apparently a famous film actor. I don't think that cat is normal. The guy to his right is JP, who comes from Texas oil money. You can tell he's from Texas because he wears a cowboy hat, and according to the cover, he has a longhorn belt buckle. This girl is Hermana, JP's little sister. Like her brother, Hermana wears stereotypical Texan clothing, complete with cowboy boots and belt buckle. She doesn't have the hat, though. She kind of plays the part of a translator between Muhammad and the reader, and the Commodore and his crew. She's not as down-to-earth as Muhammad, but she's far from as out there as her brother. The Commodore is known for throwing together emerging tech expos in secret and in random places. The goal is to help people like him find new technologies to invest in. I believe this is just the Commodore's version of Wayne Enterprises, his way of making sure he's always at the top by making sure the people who can put him there are financially reliant on him. This is definitely a mutually beneficial relationship, since the Commodore can provide capital even for high-risk research proposals and allow scientists and small businessmen to get opportunities they otherwise would not have had. There's actually some really entertaining moments in his little Poxpo, as he insists on calling them. Some really strange bits of technology that they don't make any sense, but hey, we're in a comic book universe. You got to allow some shenanigans. I can honestly say that if I was given the opportunity to attend one of his cons, I would absolutely be there. Our antagonist for this story is Riot. The only thing the book gives us to work with here is that Riot is a terrorist who hates rich people and wants to kill them or something? Riot's only motivation so far seems to be that rich people make middle class and poor people suffer, and therefore he will kill them all. That's about it. I don't want to get into any major spoilers, and there is a little bit more to the character. Certainly there will be more coming. After Muhammad screws everything up and Riot shows, the superheroing finally begins in earnest. We've waited until almost the end of the book to have any action. Up to this point, the book has been about rich people looking at technology and generally being weird. Now, like I said, there are some truly outrageous moments, even from a comic book standard. And any constant readers out there know how big of a statement that is. I'm definitely not saying that to put the book down in any way. It is an enjoyable set of scenes. It's just a little bit slow-paced. That's not to say that the lead-up to Riot's appearance is bad. There's just some strangeness going on, and I would have liked it to have been a bit more fluid. I definitely enjoyed reading Green Team number 1. However, I enjoyed it mostly as a teaser for what's to come next. The plot and the pacing for the first issue were kinda slow. And I do have doubts as to whether or not JP, Cecilia, and the Commodore can really be made into relatable characters. Now, what we've seen of the Commodore so far does definitely set up the potential for somebody very interesting. But when you're comparing relatability to guys like Wayne and Stark, or even within this book, Muhammad and Hermana, I could see it going either way. It's going to be a difficult balancing act for Baltazar and Franco to keep the rich people rich and obviously above the poor people, but also relatable and just like the poor people. It's also going to be hard setting up a world where there are rich people and poor people and it still manages to be an escape. Now, if this becomes social commentary, that could be awesome. The one place that this book could fall apart for me is if the primary antagonist does turn out to be somebody who hates rich people just for being rich and is defeated through the liberal use of money. This book isn't going to do anything for me. However, if there's more going on than meets the eye, and we get into some interesting social situations, this could be an awesome book. It's definitely one to keep an eye on, but issue 1 could have been stronger. If you don't have a lot of money floating around for comics, this could be a risky pool, but it could easily pay off. Overall, I'm going to give it a couple more books before I make a final decision, but I like what I've seen.